The NFL has made thousands of rule changes over the years, but some didn't just tweak the game, they nearly destroyed it. From turning football into a passing circus to making referees the most hated people in America, these rule changes sparked riots, ended careers, and had fans threatening to boycott the sport entirely. Today, we're breaking down the most controversial rule changes in NFL history, the chaos they caused, and how they forever altered the game we love. Let's start with the granddaddy of them all, the forward pass. Before 1906, football wasn't football. It was basically rugby with extra violence. Teams would line up, hand the ball off, and run straight into each other like human battering rams. And guys were dying, literally dying on the field. In 1905 alone, 18 college players died from football injuries. President Theodore Roosevelt, the guy who charged up Sand Hill, called college presidents to the White House and basically said, "Fix this or I'm banning football entirely." That's when you know it's serious. So in 1906, they legalized the forward pass. Sounds simple, right? This wasn't just a rule change. This was a complete revolution that traditionalists absolutely hated. Media went ballistic. Newspapers called it the death of real football. Old school coaches refused to use it, calling it cowardly and un-American. Walter Camp, the father of American football, said the forward pass would turn the sport into a game for weaklings. But here's the thing, it worked. Deaths dropped dramatically, and suddenly, football became about strategy, not just who could hit harder. Teams that embraced the pass started dominating. Those that didn't got left behind. The unintended consequence? It created the foundation for everything we love about modern football. Without the forward pass, there's no Joe Montana, no Tom Brady, no Patrick Mahomes. The rule that broke the game actually saved it. Fast forward to 1978, and we get the Mel Blount rule, named after the Steelers Hall of Fame cornerback who was basically allowed to commit assault on wide receivers. Before 1978, defensive backs could chuck, grab, and maul receivers anywhere on the field. Mel Blount was 6'3", 205 pounds, and he'd literally body slam receivers at the line and keep hitting them downfield. It was legal, and it was brutal. The problem? Offense was dying. In 1977, teams averaged just 17.2 points per game. Fans were falling asleep. TV ratings were dropping. The NFL had a serious entertainment problem. So they implemented the 5-yard rule. Defensive backs could only make contact within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. After that, hands off. The reaction was immediate and vicious. Defensive players called it the wussification of football. Mel Blount himself said it was ruining the game. Old school fans were furious, claiming the NFL was turning into flag football. But the numbers don't lie. Scoring jumped immediately. Passing yards exploded. The game became more exciting, more unpredictable. And guess what? The Steelers, even with their defensive advantage gone, won 2 more Super Bowls. The Mel Blount rule didn't break the game. It unleashed it. But it also started a trend that continues today. Every time offense struggles, the NFL changes the rules to help it. Now let's talk about the rule change that turned every NFL fan into an amateur referee: instant replay. In 1986, the NFL introduced instant replay review. Seems obvious now, right? Use technology to get calls right. But back then, it was revolutionary and controversial as hell. The system was clunky. There was one replay official in a booth who could overturn calls, but only if the evidence was indisputable. Games started taking forever. Fans in the stadium had no idea what was happening. Referees felt undermined. The media coverage was brutal. Sports Illustrated called it the death of human judgment in sports. Coaches hated the delays. Players complained about losing momentum. After 7 years, the NFL actually scrapped the whole system in 1992. But here's where it gets interesting. Bad calls kept happening. The 1998 Thanksgiving game between the Lions and Steelers had a blown call so obvious that even the refs admitted they screwed up on national TV. Public pressure mounted. So in 1999, instant replay came back, but with coaches' challenges. Now, coaches could throw a red flag and change calls. It was brilliant. It put the power in the coach's hands and limited reviews to 2 per team. The unintended consequence? It made fans obsessed with getting every call right. Now, we analyze every play in slow motion. We expect perfection from referees, and when they mess up, social media explodes. Instant replay didn't break the game, but it changed how we watch it forever. Here's a rule change that happened by accident and created an offensive explosion: the tie law rule. After the 2003 season, the Patriots had just won their second Super Bowl in 3 years with a defense that was physical, aggressive, and borderline dirty. Ty Law and the Patriots secondary were mugging receivers downfield, and it was technically legal under the loose enforcement of the day. But the Indianapolis Colts, led by Peyton Manning, were getting frustrated. They couldn't beat New England's physical defense. So, Colts owner Jim Irsay and GM Bill Polian started lobbying the competition committee. The NFL didn't create a new rule. They just decided to enforce the existing illegal contact and pass interference rules more strictly. Seemed minor, right? Wrong. The 2004 season was an offensive explosion. Peyton Manning threw 49 touchdown passes. Dante Culpepper threw 39. Teams were scoring at levels not seen in decades. Defensive coordinators were furious. They called it the Colts rule and accused the NFL of rigging the game for offense. Bill Belichick was reportedly livid, knowing his defensive advantage was gone. But fans loved it. High-scoring games are more entertaining. Fantasy football exploded in popularity. TV ratings soared. The unintended consequence? It started the modern passing era. Quarterbacks who might have struggled in the old physical NFL suddenly became stars. The rule change that was supposed to help one team ended up transforming the entire league. Now let's talk about the rule change that made everyone question reality: the Calvin Johnson rule, or as fans call it, what the hell is a catch? In 2010, Calvin Johnson caught what looked like a game-winning touchdown against the Bears. He caught the ball, got 2 feet down, fell to the ground, and the ball popped out when he hit the turf. Common sense says that's a catch. The ref said no, incomplete pass. The rule stated that a receiver going to the ground must maintain control throughout the entire process of the catch, including hitting the ground. Fans went ballistic. The media couldn't believe it. Even Bears fans thought it was a bad call, but technically, the refs got it right according to the rulebook. So the NFL doubled down. They clarified the rule, making it even more complicated. Suddenly, catches that looked obvious weren't catches. Dez Bryant's playoff catch against the Packers? Not a catch. Jesse James' touchdown against the Patriots? Not a catch. The controversy reached a breaking point. Fans were confused. Players were confused. Hell, referees were confused. The NFL was getting roasted on social media every week. Finally, in 2018, they simplified the rule. But the damage was done. For nearly a decade, the NFL looked incompetent because they couldn't define something as basic as a catch. The Calvin Johnson rule didn't break the game, but it broke fans' trust in the NFL's ability to make common-sense decisions. The 2010s brought a wave of safety rules that fundamentally changed how defenses played, and sparked the biggest soft football debate in NFL history. After years of research linking football to CTE and brain injuries, the NFL implemented strict rules protecting defenseless receivers and eliminating helmet-to-helmet hits. Players could be ejected for targeting. Fines skyrocketed. The reaction was swift and brutal. Old-school players called it the wussification of football. Fans complained that defense was being neutered. James Harrison, the Steelers linebacker, said the NFL was taking the violence out of a violent game. But the science was clear. These hits were causing long-term brain damage. The NFL was facing lawsuits from thousands of former players. Something had to change. The rules worked. Concussions dropped. Helmet-to-helmet hits became rare. But the unintended consequence was that defense became incredibly difficult to play. Defensive backs had to completely change their technique. Big hits that used to fire up crowds became penalties. The game became more offensive-friendly than ever. The controversy continues today. Every questionable targeting call sparks debate about whether football is becoming too soft. But player safety won out over tradition, and the game adapted. Here's the rule change that proved the NFL can overreact to one bad call: pass interference review. The 2018 NFC Championship game between the Saints and Rams had one of the worst no calls in playoff history. Nickel Roby Coleman destroyed Tommy Lee Lewis with an obvious pass interference that wasn't called. The Rams won in overtime and went to the Super Bowl. Saints fans were furious. The media was outraged. The NFL looked incompetent on the biggest stage. So in 2019, they made pass interference reviewable. Coaches would challenge PI calls and no calls. Seemed like a reasonable fix, right? It was a disaster. Referees almost never overturned PI calls, even when they were obviously wrong. The standard for overturning was impossibly high. Coaches wasted challenges. Games got longer. After one season, the NFL quietly eliminated PI review. It was one of the shortest-lived rule changes in NFL history. The lesson? Sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. The NFL tried to fix one bad call and ended up creating a system that satisfied nobody. The NFL has been trying to fix the kickoff for years, and each attempt has been more controversial than the last. Kickoffs are the most dangerous play in football. Players run full speed into each other from 30 yards apart. Concussion rates on kickoffs are through the roof. So the NFL started tinkering. They moved the kickoff line up to increase touchbacks. They eliminated the running start. They created a landing zone where kicks had to go. Each change made kickoffs safer but less exciting. Return rates plummeted. The play that used to create the most explosive moments in football became boring. Fans hated it. Special teams coaches hated it. Players hated it. The NFL was essentially trying to eliminate one of football's most exciting plays in the name of safety. The latest change in 2024 completely redesigned the kickoff, borrowing from the XFL. Players line up closer together. No running starts. It's safer, but completely different from traditional football. The jury's still out on whether it works, but one thing's clear. The NFL is willing to completely reinvent fundamental parts of the game for player safety, even if fans hate it. No rule change has been more controversial in recent years than the evolution of roughing the passer penalties. It started reasonably. Protect quarterbacks from late hits and hits to the head. Makes sense. QBs are the stars, and they're vulnerable in the pocket. But it escalated quickly. The Tom Brady rule after his 2008 knee injury banned hits below the knee. The Aaron Rodgers rule banned landing on the quarterback with your full body weight. Suddenly, pass rushers had to defy physics to avoid penalties. The 2018 season was peak insanity. Clay Matthews got flagged for textbook tackles. Defenders were getting penalized for playing football. Fans were furious. The media coverage was relentless. Former players called it ridiculous. Current players said they didn't know how to rush the passer anymore without getting flagged. The NFL has tried to dial it back, but the damage is done. Every questionable roughing call sparks outrage. Fans think quarterbacks are overprotected. Defenders feel like they can't do their jobs. The rule that was supposed to protect the game's stars ended up making fans question the integrity of the sport. Finally, let's talk about the rule that launched a dynasty and confused everyone for 12 years, the tuck rule. January 2002, Patriots vs. Raiders in the snow. Tom Brady drops back, gets hit by Charles Woodson, and fumbles. Raiders recover. Game over. Patriots dynasty never happens. Except, the refs reviewed it and said it wasn't a fumble because of the tuck rule. If a quarterback starts a passing motion and then tries to tuck the ball back, it's still considered a forward pass, even if he loses control. Raiders fans went ballistic. The media was confused. Even Patriots fans didn't understand the call. But it was technically correct according to the rulebook. The Patriots won that game, then the Super Bowl, then built a dynasty. All because of a rule nobody understood. For 12 years, the tuck rule created controversy. It was called randomly and inconsistently. Fans hated it. Players didn't understand it. Even referees seemed confused by it. Finally, in 2013, the NFL eliminated the rule. But the damage was done. The tuck rule had already changed NFL history and given us the Patriots dynasty. These rule changes showed us something important about the NFL. It's constantly evolving, and not every change works. Some rules that seemed like disasters ended up improving the game. Others that seemed reasonable created unintended chaos. The NFL isn't perfect. They overreact to bad calls, overcorrect for safety concerns, and sometimes create more problems than they solve. But they're also willing to admit mistakes and change course. The game we watch today is dramatically different from the game our grandparents watched, and it'll be different for our grandchildren too. Rule changes will continue to spark controversy, create unintended consequences, and occasionally threaten to break the game. But football survives, it adapts, and somehow it usually ends up better than before. If you enjoyed this breakdown of NFL rule changes that nearly broke the game, I'm going to be posting a lot more content like this, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed and dropped a like for the algorithm. Thanks for watching.